On December 20th, just 11 days before New Year's Eve, the message appeared in our family group chat like a quiet knife slipped between my ribs. My name was simply gone from the reservation list, removed without warning, without explanation. Replaced with a cheerful, updated itinerary for everyone attending, as if I had ceased to exist overnight, as if erasing me was as casual as crossing out a typo, and when my sister reacted with a row of laughing emojis, something inside me tightened with a coldness I hadn't felt in years, a coldness that didn't come from winter, but from truth finally standing naked in front of me. That was the exact moment I knew. Whatever they thought they could take from me this time, whatever power they believed they held over me, they had absolutely no idea what I had already built without them, what I had learned to do in silence, what I had become while they treated me like an afterthought. My name is Ava Carter. I'm 28 years old, born and raised in the snowy side streets of Boston, and for as long as I can remember, I have been the overlooked middle daughter in a family that only celebrated two kinds of people the loudest and the most convenient. And I was never either of those. I was the one who stayed quiet, the one who didn't complain, the one who cleaned without being asked, the one who listened to everyone else's problems but never shared my own, and because of that, they decided I didn't need space, didn't need acknowledgement, didn't deserve a seat at the table unless someone else backed out. Growing up, "You're fine, Ava," became the anthem they used to dismiss every disappointment I felt. "You're fine" when they forgot to pick me up after dance class. "You're fine" when I spent Christmas Eve alone because they left early for my sister's choir recital. "You're fine" when I spent 3 months working double shifts during the pandemic to pay household bills, only for my mother to casually blame me for being behind in life. They told me success looked good on my older sister because she worked hard for it, but when I graduated early with honors, they said I only finished quickly because I had nothing else going on. When I earned a promotion at work, they chalked it up to luck. When I bought gifts for holidays, they shrugged and said they were fine. When I struggled, they vanished. Their pattern wasn't subtle, it was deliberate. But I kept going anyway, because I learned early that some storms don't pass, you just grow strong enough to walk through them. That strength became the quiet muscle of my adulthood. While they underestimated me, belittled me, used me, or conveniently forgot me, I spent years building something they never saw coming. Something they would only discover when it was too late to undo. Something tied directly to the place they now believed I was unworthy of joining. And it all came to a head the moment they uninvited me from the New Year's Eve trip I had rearranged my entire life to attend. This year, they planned a luxurious winter lodge getaway in New Hampshire, a private cabin, catered dinner, wine tasting, fireworks, snowmobile tours, all the things they talked about loudly for weeks at every family gathering while pretending I was part of the plan. I saved money, traded work shifts, bought thoughtful gifts for everyone, and even helped my sister browse outfits she wanted to pack. I shouldn't have been surprised when the truth hit me, but the cruelty wasn't just in the decision, it was in the way they delivered it. At 4:17 p.m., my mother texted me privately, not even having the decency to call. "Ava, we just realized the cabin doesn't have enough rooms. It's better if you stay home this year. You understand." 3 sentences. No apology. No explanation. Not even a question mark at the end, as if my response didn't matter, as if my awareness of their decision was merely a formality. They didn't even say sorry. They didn't ask if I had already taken vacation time off work. They didn't care that the gifts I bought were wrapped and ready by the door. They didn't acknowledge that I had spent months looking forward to what was supposed to be the first time I celebrated New Year's Eve with them instead of alone. They simply removed me, like luggage that exceeded weight limits. And the most painful part wasn't being excluded. I was used to that. The pain came from realizing how easily they could decide I didn't belong. But this time, something inside me didn't break. It sharpened. It hardened. It clicked into place with the terrifying calm of someone who has finally stopped hoping that people will change. I stared at the message for a long minute, then 2, then 3, and in that silence, I felt something shift inside me, not rage, not despair, but clarity. They weren't just uninviting me from a trip. They were confirming every small wound, every dismissal, every eye roll, Every forgotten birthday, every time I wasn't included in photos, every time my mother bragged about my siblings but called my achievements accidents, every time my sister posted family pictures online and captioned them "all of us red heart" without me in them. This wasn't new. It was just unmasked. And maybe they thought their decision would push me into silence again, make me shrink, make me apologize for existing, make me pretend it didn't hurt. But instead, it pushed me toward the one thing I had kept hidden for almost a year, my secret. The one thing they didn't know. The one thing tied to the very lodge they booked for New Year's Eve. Because months ago, long before they planned this trip, long before they decided I was disposable, long before they acted like I didn't deserve to be part of the family celebration, I had been working on a massive systems redesign project for a chain of private lodges in New England. I didn't brag about it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't parade documents in front of my sister or tell my mother how important my role was. I just did the work. And quietly, the lodge's owner formed a fondness for my dedication, my ideas, my reliability, 3 qualities my family never cared about. I didn't expect anything from him. I just did my job because that's who I am. But life has a strange way of balancing itself. And when my family erased me from their celebration, the universe finally placed something in my lap that had my name on it, something they could not delete. Something that would be revealed in a way they could never ignore. They believed uninviting me would hurt me. Instead, it exposed them. And it unlocked the beginning of a revenge they would never see coming, not because it was loud or dramatic, but because it was rooted in the truth they always denied. I had value. I had power. And I had finally stopped begging them to see it. As I stared at the message again, reading it for the 10th time, I didn't cry. I didn't respond. I just whispered into the quiet of my apartment, "You made your choice." Then I picked up my phone, not to message them back, but to open the contact labeled Lodge Owner, Peter. Because if my family wanted a New Year's Eve without me, I would grant their wish. But they would learn that removing someone doesn't erase them. Sometimes it reveals exactly who they are. And exactly who I have become. The moment I ended the call with my mother, a strange stillness settled over me, not the kind that signals defeat, but the kind that comes right before clarity sharpens into action, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the familiar ache of being excluded. Instead, I felt something inside me tighten like a pulled thread finally snapping into place, a realization that their decision wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding or bad timing, it was the truth. They had always lived by, that I was disposable, interchangeable, unnecessary to the family narrative they liked to present to the world. And strangely, instead of breaking me, the truth steadied me. They thought they were punishing me by uninviting me, by treating me like an extra coat that didn't fit into the luggage, but what they had actually done was permit me to stop pretending, to stop waiting for their approval, to stop minimizing everything I had built. Because while they had been laughing, dismissing, sidelining, and avoiding me, I had been working quietly, relentlessly, on something far bigger than any of them could imagine. Something that connected directly to the very place they would be celebrating New Year's Eve, something they believed was just another fancy lodge, but was actually the beating heart of the secret life I had been building without their knowledge. It all started 8 months earlier, when my company assigned me to collaborate with a private developer who owned a chain of mountain lodges across New Hampshire and Vermont. His name was Peter Lawson, a detail-oriented, forward-thinking entrepreneur who wanted a complete redesign of the lodge's outdated booking system. Every invoice, every check-in, every room key, rebuilt from the ground up. It was the biggest project of my career, and instead of bragging about it, instead of telling my family or trying to prove myself to people who never believed in me, I kept it quiet. My work was finally something that belonged to me and only me. Peter, impressed by my ability to work under pressure and solve problems without theatrics, began involving me in more discussions, not just technical ones, but operational ones, strategic ones. The kind people on my level were usually never invited to join. Over months, he began trusting me more than he trusted his own managers. And when the system launched, increasing their winter bookings by nearly 40%, he told me I had changed the future of his business. I never mentioned any of this to my mother or sister. They would have rolled their eyes, said I was exaggerating, or worse, accused me of lying. So when they uninvited me from the trip, they had absolutely no idea they were heading straight into the arms of the man who believed in me more than my own family ever had. As I sat on my couch that night, the glow of my laptop illuminating the snow outside my window, I pulled up the forwarded itinerary my cousin had sent me months ago. At the time, he sent it by accident, but now it felt like fate nudging me. I zoomed in on the lodge's name, Winter Pines Mountain Retreat, one of the crown jewels of Lawson's properties. The same lodge where I had personally helped troubleshoot a system update 2 weeks earlier. The same lodge whose general manager had emailed me last month, asking for guidance on integrating a new automation tool. The same lodge where my family now planned to celebrate the new year, blissfully unaware that their overlooked, unimpressive, "You're fine," Ava daughter had played a key role in running the very place they valued more than me. I stared at the screen for a long moment, my heart not racing but steady, centered, as if some invisible puzzle piece inside me had finally clicked. Then I opened my phone and scrolled to the name I had never needed outside work, Peter Lawson. I hesitated for only a breath, then pressed call. He answered on the second ring, voice warm and genuine as always. "Ava, just the person I needed to talk to." I exhaled a small, disbelieving laugh. "I hope it's nothing urgent." "Nothing urgent," he said. "Just grateful. We rolled out the holiday push yesterday, and the booking system handled it perfectly. Couldn't have done any of this without you." I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the words settle in places inside me that my family had hollowed out for years. But I didn't call him for praise. I called because the universe was handing me a moment of alignment, and I wasn't going to let it slip by. So I said, carefully, "Actually, Peter, I was wondering if Winter Pines has any availability on New Year's Eve." He paused for half a second, then asked, "Are you planning a trip?" I swallowed, the truth soft and flat. "My family planned one. They uninvited me today." His tone changed instantly, not pitying, but protective in a way I had never experienced from anyone but myself. "They uninvited you? Are you serious?" "Completely." "Well," he said, and I could practically hear the gears turning in his head, "that's unacceptable. And I think I know exactly how to fix it." "Oh, Peter, I'm not calling for a favor, you're not asking for one. I'm offering one." Before I could respond, he continued, "Ava, why don't you take the presidential suite for New Year's Eve? The one above the ballroom. The one that overlooks the entire valley. I'll arrange everything. Consider it my thank you for saving my entire business from falling apart last quarter." I froze, gripping my phone. The presidential suite. The one my mother joked she would sell a kidney to experience. The one my sister posted photos of on Instagram with captions like, "Someday." The one that cost more for one night than I earned in a week. And he was offering it to me, not because I begged, not because I needed charity, but because I earned it. The idea of me staying in that suite on the same night my family stayed in standard rooms, the same night they believed they had successfully removed me from their celebration, sent a slow-burning warmth through my chest, not vengeance, not pettiness, but justice. A quiet reclaiming of dignity. I finally whispered, "Are you sure?" He didn't hesitate. "Ava, I trust you more than half the people on my payroll. It would be my honor." I closed my eyes again, breathing in the moment. "Then, yes. I'd love that." "Perfect," he said. "And don't worry. Everything will be handled discreetly." But I didn't want to be discreet. Not this time. Not after years of being erased. Not after they acted like I didn't matter. So I said gently, "Actually, Peter, I don't need it to be discreet." There was a long, understanding pause, and when he spoke again, there was a smile in his voice. "Then let's make sure they see you for the first time in their lives." After the call ended, I sat in silence, letting the entire night replay in my mind like a film reel. My mother's indifferent message, my sister's mocking emojis, the sudden clarity that I had spent my entire life craving validation from people who never intended to give it. And now, without raising my voice, without begging, without arguing or defending or explaining myself, I had stepped into a new version of me. The version they thought didn't exist. The version I had built quietly in late-night shifts, in work emails, in solutions no one appreciated but Peter. The version that didn't need their invitation to belong somewhere beautiful. The days leading up to New Year's Eve were a blur of preparation, not the frantic kind, but the intentional kind. I bought a navy winter dress that made me feel powerful, not pretty. I packed with purpose, not insecurity. I walked through my apartment feeling lighter than I had in years, not because my family had changed, but because I finally had. I wasn't going to New Hampshire as the daughter they overlooked. I was going as the woman they should have never underestimated. And by the time the clock struck midnight on New Year's Eve, they would finally understand exactly who they had uninvited. New Year's Eve arrived wrapped in a soft snowfall that dusted the mountains like powdered sugar, and as I drove toward Winter Pine's mountain retreat, the sky glowing faint lavender above the peaks, I felt no nerves, no shaking hands, no lingering ache from the moment I was uninvited. Instead, I felt a steadiness, a grounded sense of self, as if I were walking toward the version of me I had been building in silence for years. The lodge rose from the hillside like something out of a winter movie. Glass, pine beams, warm light spilling through every window, and when I pulled into the valet circle, the staff recognized my name instantly, greeting me with the kind of respect I had never received from the people who raised me. The property manager hurried out, smiling as if he'd been waiting all evening. "Ms. Carter, welcome. The presidential suite is ready, and Mr. Lawson insisted that everything be done precisely to your liking." For a heartbeat, I let myself feel that gratitude, dignity, the strange warmth of finally being treated as someone who mattered, and then I followed him inside, past guests taking pictures by the lit-up tree, past servers arranging glasses for the midnight toast, past the very world my family believed I didn't belong in. When the elevator opened on the top floor, the presidential suite stood like a quiet promise, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the valley, a fireplace already lit, a chilled bottle of champagne resting on the marble counter, a handwritten note from Peter thanking me again for my work. I wasn't used to these kinds of things, not because I didn't deserve them, but because I had never allowed myself to imagine that I did. I changed into my navy winter dress, the one that hugged me in all the right places, not glamorous or flashy, but powerful. A woman reborn, not from revenge, but from recognition. At 8:50 p.m., the sound of arriving guests drifted up from the ballroom, a familiar mix of chatter, laughter, clinking glasses, and with it, I heard their voices. My family had arrived. For a moment, I stood perfectly still, letting the weight of that sink in. They had no idea I was here. No idea I had checked into the most exclusive room in the entire lodge. No idea the staff they would interact with tonight had received explicit instructions to treat me not just as a VIP guest, but as someone integral to the lodge's future. No idea that the very system handling their check-in, their payment, their room keys, their reservations, carried my fingerprints in every line of code. And absolutely no idea that tonight would reveal everything they had spent years ignoring. At 9:10 p.m., I took the elevator down to the lobby. The doors slid open with a soft chime, and there they were. My mother, wrapped in a fur-trimmed coat, my sister, adjusting her sequin dress, my brother-in-law, carrying their luggage. They were standing at the reception desk, laughing about something, probably a joke that involved me without mentioning my name. And then the moment happened, the moment everything shifted. The staff member behind the desk looked up and saw me. She immediately stepped out from behind the counter, smiling brightly. "Ms. Carter, good evening. Your suite is in perfect order, and the staff is ready whenever you need anything." The entire lobby went quiet, but none more than my family. My mother turned toward me slowly, her eyes narrowing in disbelief. My sister's mouth dropped open. My brother-in-law blinked like someone trying to solve an equation missing half the numbers. "Ava," my mother finally choked out. You're staying here?" I smiled gently, the kind of smile that doesn't ask for approval but acknowledges truth. "Yes, I am." The property manager walked up at that exact moment, offering me a folder. "Ms. Carter, your event access credentials for tonight. And Mr. Lawson asked me to remind you that he'll speak at 11:40 p.m. My sister actually staggered back a step, as if the ground shifted under her heels. Mr. Lawson, she whispered, confusion crumpling her expression. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I simply thanked him and walked past them, every step steady, every breath calm, every movement carrying the quiet power of someone who no longer needed their recognition. I could feel their eyes burning into my back, not with hatred but with confusion, the most poetic form of justice for people who always assumed they knew who I was. At 10:30 p.m., the ballroom filled with guests dressed in winter elegance, lights twinkling across the chandeliers, a live band playing soft jazz as servers passed trays of hors d'oeuvres. I stood near the balcony doors, watching the snowfall outside, when Peter arrived. He was warm, charismatic, proud, yet the moment he saw me, his entire face lit up with genuine admiration. Ava, you look magnificent. Ready? I nodded. For the first time in my life, I felt more than ready. At 11:40 p.m., the music softened as Peter walked to the stage, tapping the microphone lightly. The room fell silent. My family stood near the back, holding champagne flutes, still trying to process why the owner of the entire lodge chain was calling me by name. Before we welcome the new year, Peter began, I want to acknowledge someone whose brilliance, dedication, and creativity transformed our entire business this year. My mother's head snapped toward me. My sister's breath hitched. My brother-in-law stiffened. Our new booking and operations system, he continued, was not only redesigned but perfected by a woman whose talent is unmatched, someone who worked tirelessly, quietly, without asking for applause. The spotlight moved. It landed on me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Please help me honor the lead systems designer behind our success, Ava Carter. Applause erupted like a wave, loud, warm, genuine. People turned to look at me with admiration, appreciation, respect, everything my own family never gave me. But Peter wasn't finished. And tonight, he said, I am thrilled to announce that Ava will be joining the ownership board of our lodge network in 2025. The applause turned thunderous. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My sister actually whispered, what, like the word itself betrayed her. My chest felt warm, full, yet steady. I walked toward the stage, not because I needed the attention, but because I deserved the acknowledgement. As I stepped up, Peter whispered, this is your moment. Let them see who you've always been. And I did. I didn't give a speech. I didn't boast. I simply bowed my head in gratitude as the applause washed over me. When the crowd parted afterward, my mother finally approached me, her voice trembling. Ownership? You? Since when? I looked at her with a calm she had never earned, but I had grown into. Since the day you all decided I didn't matter, I said softly, not angry, not theatrical, just honest. At midnight, when the countdown began 10, 9, 8, the fireworks outside burst into the sky, scattering light over the snow. 7, 6, 5, my sister stared at me like seeing me for the first time. 4, 3, my mother didn't speak again. 2, 1, cheers erupted. Champagne popped. The band began playing. And my family stood frozen, forced to watch as everyone around us celebrated me. The daughter they didn't bother to include, the sister they dismissed, the woman they underestimated. I didn't shame them publicly. I didn't list every time they belittled me. I didn't make a scene. I didn't need to. My success was the scene. My presence was the confrontation. My truth was the revenge. And as the fireworks reflected in the ballroom windows, I realized something powerful, not that I had beaten them, not that I had humiliated them, but that I had finally stepped into a life where their opinions no longer defined my worth. When they tried to erase me, I rebuilt myself into someone impossible to ignore. When they closed the door, I opened another one above them. When they uninvited me, I became the guest of honor at an event they could never claim as theirs. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was standing on the outside looking in. I felt like I was standing exactly where I was meant to be seen, valued, and finally, irrevocably free.